Ian Patrick here with us, FISM News.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed a new bill on Monday limiting the capacity for censorship by big tech companies and social media platforms. So the new law prohibits social media companies from, and this is quoted from the law, willfully deplatforming a candidate for political office, and allows the Florida Elections Commission to fine a social media platform $250,000 per day for deplatforming a candidate for statewide office and $25,000 per day for deplatforming any other candidate. Now, the law also allows for new kinds of lawsuits against tech and social media companies by Florida citizens in other instances of deplatforming. So Florida's really taken the charge. They're not alone in this effort on censorship by big tech, though. Arkansas, Kentucky, Oklahoma, and Utah are some other states who have drafted perhaps not the same, but similar types of legislation against big tech censorship. So
wow, that's
really,
great. That's great.
Oh
that's
yeah,
great.
And the numbers on that are pretty staggering too. That's if that happens in Florida, that's going to be pretty big for those. It might not seem big for those companies at first, but that can add up after a while.
Plus Florida being the biggest swing state.
Yeah.
So it's huge in every federal election. So that could be really beneficial. That they can't just pull the feed on the conservative candidate.
Yeah. Hey, yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the conservative candidate too, because in this article we also mentioned Republicans obviously were very largely outraged and concerned by Twitter's suspension of President Donald Trump, which eventually led to YouTube suspension and then Facebook suspension, and down the line it goes. While the left continues to contend that these companies actually don't do enough to combat what they seem as offensive or dangerous content on the web. So this is very interesting that Florida passes this bill, and we'll have to see how it kind of plays on both sides of the aisle there. In other news, even though the postponed Olympic Games are still on in Japan, many of the nation's citizens are opposed to the Games due to a recent resurgence of COVID-19. In fact, the U.S. State Department even issued a do not travel advisory to the nation. The U.S. Embassy notes that Japan itself is limiting the number of U.S. citizens, especially those just visiting for tourism purposes, and Japan will be requiring people visiting the nation to quarantine before they even go out and do anything. The 14-day stint, which was, I believe, lessened to 10 days in the U.S., but elsewhere it's still up to 14 days for quarantine purposes. Neither the advisory nor the embassy indicate that essential travel is forbidden, meaning that U.S. athletes could still make the trip to compete in the Olympic Games. And Japan's chief cabinet secretary said that there's no change in the United States' support for Japan's decision to hold the Olympics. So as of right now, everything is still a go for the Olympics, but people are feeling, especially Japanese citizens are feeling as though it shouldn't be held, but the International Olympic Committee and the U.S. appear to be all for it. In other news, state governments across the country, as well as the federal government, are providing a wide range of incentives for citizens to get vaccinated. This is a very fun story. Some of the incentives are kind of funny. They vary by state, but some examples include entrance in a lottery, free meals, gift cards, and if you happen to live in Los Angeles, you can even get free season passes to Lakers games just for signing up to get the vaccine. And weirdly, in Ohio, these incentives have actually produced some results. Ohioans receiving the vaccination shot up 53% in 1 week after the lottery was announced. So obviously people are very into that idea.
Go to FISM.tv/news for more.